Tic Tac Toe React app. So we will work with 9 cards. We'll cover 3 cards in this video. These 3 cards define the core of the system. Number 1, valid initialization. 2, only the current player can act, and players have to alternate turns. The system must expose state read-only. So by the end, we'll have a game that can start with X or O, rejects invalid starts, allows valid moves, blocks invalid moves, exposes the board, current player and status as read-only. Okay, so let's get started. So to get started, we have the basic interface. So as you can see here, starting player, X or O, display current player, status. And this is where we will get started. The data that feeds into this is based on the class. So let's go here, show that class. And you can see that we have the class. And the data, current player, comes from the method current player. We have status from the method status. Finally, when the user creates a game, we have to feed starting player to the constructor. Let's create the game class. So we go here. What do we have? We have a class. We'll create a valid player set, only accepts X or O. Constructor must feed starting player. Validate starting player, make sure that it's X or O, otherwise we generate an exception. No exception, set starting player, set current player. Afterward, we need to expose starting player and game status. So let's see, how do we do that? So we go here, generate status, expose current player, return the value, expose status, return the value. And this is it for the game class. We will move on to the interface. Let's quickly go through the test cases. We'll make sure that the status is set correctly when X, when O, and if a invalid starting player, and we need to generate an error. So we have a test case. If X, then we have to make sure that the value for current player is X, status in progress. If O, current player O, status in progress. Finally, if invalid player, then we need to make sure we expect an error generated. Let's go ahead and run the test case. Go down here, run it, run the test case executed. Starting player X sets X. Starting player O sets O. Finally, we rejected the invalid starting player. And that is a brief overlook of the test case for this. Let's quickly go through the HTML. So I'm not gonna go into detail. We'll just have to glance through it. Okay, so we create a new game here, and then we have to set the starting player in the future. So let's see where that happens. So we go here, we have the label, and we have the starting player, and we have onChange event. On the onChange event, that's where we are going to set starting player. How? Well, option is X or O, and that's how we can set starting player. After we set starting player, we have to expose the current player and the status of the game. So let's go ahead and see that. But before we do that, let's see how it is right now. There's nothing. Okay, so once we complete this code and save it, we will look at the changes to see what we've done. Okay, so we have the current player, and then we have the game status. And that fulfills the requirement for this card 1. Let's go ahead and save. Go back and look at interface, and we have and in progress. And that completes card 1. Let's commit changes. We want this one and we want this one. That's it for our commit. So we look at stage changes. we're good. Commit. And that's the commit for this card. And we will continue. Requirement 2, the game must alternate between X and O. We want to implement only the current player may place a mark. After a valid move, the turn must switch to the other player. After an invalid move, the turn must not change. Alternation goes on while the game is in progress. And we also have to display the board to be able to see that the game is working correctly. So this is what the game will look like after this video. Look at the board code. Constructor, create an array of 9, return the array, basic validation, accept the number, value must be between 0 and 8, and we only place values in null blocks. Call the place, validate can place. If that succeeds, then they can place a value or a peg on the board. We move on to game, import board, create a board instance, expose the board, call place mark, game has to be in progress, and use the board place method. Go ahead and display or place values on the board. Okay, and finally here we have a current player, right, X or O. And that is the code for this Tic Tac Toe. Moving on to the interface, we want to cover relevant parts. The code will be in GitHub. Okay, so we start here with Square, create a button, and we either send in a value or an empty value. Moving on to board, and this is what displays the 3x3 matrix. So we go here, we use the map, and we have an index, we have the square which we call, that'll handle user clicks to properly set X or O. Okay, and then we need this helper function handle square click, so we go ahead and make sure that we have valid values. Let's make sure that we can successfully place a mark, and if we can, then we move on, otherwise we display an error. Snapshot is just for interface purposes, and then this is good. So then we go down here, and I just want to point the piece where we display the board to. Okay, so moving on here, so board, right, this is where we would display it to. And this is the new interface. We can go ahead and start the game. O, X. Again, remember, we don't have winner rules yet. That'll come up in one of the next sessions, right? So that is it for this video. Looking at the test cases, valid moves places marks for current player and switches turn. And we have invalid moves does not change. Invalid move does not change turn. Alternate continuation while in progress. Moves are rejected if game is not in progress. Okay, so again, to run this test cases, we simply have to use the npm test command. We run it. And as you can see, our test cases passed. Okay, so I'm not going to go into detail for this test cases. A lot of information for this is on the internet, but this is how you would create the test cases for our game. Let's go ahead and commit our changes. For simplicity, I'll just put card 2 here. In a real example, real world, we would be more detailed. So we need this one. We need the style sheet. We need test cases. We need the board, and we need the game. And then we can go ahead and successfully commit this to GitHub. We do that. Let's go ahead and push our changes. And now they are in my remote repository. I'll cover that later. In review, we were able to choose X or O. We were able to alternate between X and O's, and we were able to see the current board after every move. And as I showed you earlier, this was our final piece for the application, a working application. Again, start game, and we can click. Again, there's no win logic yet, but we will get to it in the next video.